Hello everyone, this is Olushola Adio. You're welcome to the second video in my series about Docker containers. Today we're going to be looking at how to export a Docker image that we have created into a Docker Hub. A Docker Hub is like an online store where you can push Docker images into. And then these Docker images, because they are self-contained, it's all been packaged and wrapped up together within the container. You can pull this container into another computer or into another machine or into another environment altogether, like the Azure environment, and run your application directly from the container without any other prerequisite involved. So we're going to have a look at the first way of getting a Docker image out of your machine into the Docker Hub. So we're going to Dockerize an application, which we have done in the previous video, and then export the Dockerized application to the Docker Hub from the local environment. Now, the first thing I want us to look at is the Docker Hub online. And you can get there by typing hub.docker.com. And that's the URL here. I can do it again, hub.docker.com. Yeah, and there it is. And I already have a namespace here. I call the namespace Logion, and there is no repository in this namespace. Oh, I need to get rid of this. So there is no repository in the namespace, so it's all empty. So what we're going to do is we're going to add, so let's go into the Logion, and what we're going to do is to add a repository. So we're going to add a repository to this namespace called Logion. So repositories, and let's see, Logion repositories. Then we just need to add one to it, so we can have somewhere to export our Docker image into. Let's see, my content. Oh, okay, this is sort of private repositories. So Logion, create or manage. Oh no, that's not what we want. Let's go back to Docker Hub. Logion, so repository. Yeah, create repository. This is what I was looking for. So we're going to create a repository under this namespace called Logion. So this repository, we're going to give it a name. Let's look for the name that we're going to give it. We're going to call it VAT repo. VAT repo, VAT repo. So that's what we're going to call it. VAT repo. Yep. So just call it a repository to hold VAT web API service. To hold a VAT web API service. So the visibility is going to be public, so we don't have to use passwords for this. And we just do create. And it's all created. So we have Logion, which is the namespace, and VAT repo, which is the repository, and it's a public one. So what Docker is telling us is that if we want to push an image into this repository, what we need to do is to issue Docker push namespace / repository :tag. So tag is almost like the version of what you want to push. So we're probably going to start with a V1. We'll call it version 1. So let's go into Visual Studio Code and start our journey from there. So if you remember last video, we worked on this script where we discussed about this Docker image ls, which, this is the command to list the names of images that you have in your machine store, and then the Docker build -t web app :vat is what we used to build a Docker image out of our application. So we're going to look to do that. We're going to look to do that again in our second script. So we're going to log in here into Docker, make sure we're all logged in. And what Docker image ls will do is to just show us whatever images we have running. So let's log in here. Yeah, so we're good to go. Then docker image ls, and we're going to use that to display a listing of all the images we have. So we don't have any custom images. We only have the .NET SDK images that were downloaded some 5 weeks ago, or created 5 weeks ago, but downloaded a few days ago. So the next thing we want to do is to build that application, the same application we built on the first video. We're going to build it again. So docker build -t. Now -t there means the tag. So we're going to build this locally, give it a namespace of web app, and give it a repository name of VAT app, and without any tag at all. So we're just going to do that. So it's going off to build. We've gone through the steps in the previous video, copying the solution and the project files across, so you can do a .NET restore to bring the NuGet packages down from the package store. And once it's done with that, it's going to then do a build. It's going to copy all the source files into the working app folder. These are work directory app folder, and then do a build. It will do a release build to build the application. So I think the NuGet restore is complete now. So it's doing, yeah. So he's done a build here into the release folder. Then he's copied the release, the artifacts, copying the release from the artifacts here, from the release folder into the app folder, and then it's done. So he successfully built the image, and it successfully tagged the image. So the next thing we want to do is to list the images that we have on our Docker environment on the computer. So you can see that this is what we've just built now. This one, web app, the repository is web app, the tag is VAT app. So this is the tag, VAT app, and the repository is web app. There's no namespace involved here because we are on a local machine. So this is the next thing we're going to do. Now you'll notice that there is an image ID here, which is why I wrote this format here: web app, VAT app, image ID. Now this gets generated when the image is created, so we couldn't have known this beforehand. So that's why I put the bunch of asterisks here. So we're going to copy the image ID that was generated into the next line, this line here. So what's the image ID for this number here? We're going to stick it here. No, actually, we're going to stick it here. So you can see what this command will do is that it is going to take this image here, identified by the ID, and then tag it. So it's going to tag the image using this namespace, logion, VAT repo, and then this is going to be the tag version 1. And that's going to tally with what we have created here: logion, which is the namespace, VAT repo, which is the repository, and this is the tag name. So we're going to call it version 1, V1. So we're going to run that. And so we're going to just copy that onto the command line. So we're going to run that. So it's been tagged now. So the next command we're going to issue is to push. So we're now going to push the image, which we have tagged. We have tagged this image here as logion /VAT repo :v1. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to push the image, this image that has been tagged, we're going to push it online into the Docker Hub. Now, if we go into the Docker Hub, we'll see that we don't have any tag. So this repository is empty. When it's not empty, you'll see a list of the most recent tags here. So we don't have anything sitting in this repository. So we're going to issue a command here to push this image that has been tagged as logion /VAT repo. We're going to push it online. And here we go. So it's going to start loading it up into the online store, the hub.docker. That's what it's doing at the moment. Yeah, it takes a little while because it's going to upload 319 gigs of code or of image into the internet, and that was quite quick actually. So it's done. So in a few steps, building the application, tagging it, and pushing it, we have loaded up the image, the container image that we created the last time. We have loaded it up into hub.docker.com. So if we refresh this or go to tags, you'll see v1 last updated a few seconds ago. So we just loaded it, and this is the footprint. Now the interesting thing is that this is a Windows application. You of course saw that this was C# code, which was effectively a Windows application running on .NET. But this image is actually being hosted and is going to be run from a Linux machine. You see, Linux machine, that's the OS that is going to be running from. And this is the compressed size of the image. So you can see that this is the footprint. Logion, which is the namespace, /VAT repo, which is the repository, :v1. So if we want to pull it down, this is the command that we're going to issue. But in the meantime, let's see what, let's just look at the rest of the commands that we're going to run. So effectively, we've been able to build an image. We built an image by running this script here, docker build. We built it from our C# application, C# solution, and we then did a listing of Docker images. We took the image ID, we plunked it into this command here, docker tag, so that we can tag the image as logion vat repo :v1, and then we pushed it into the Docker Hub, and then the Docker Hub received it and loaded it up into a slot v1 on logion /vat repo, and that's the container safely stored online. So we'll come to the end of this video. It's a very short one. Which is just to teach us how to export a Docker image into the hub. And I hope to see you again very soon, where we're going to pick up the next task. The next task is going to be deploying an image from a Docker Hub online into your local machine. So what we're going to be doing is that this image that we pushed into hub.docker.com, we're going to pull it down on our next video, and then we're going to run it with no knowledge of the source code that produced the image. And that's going to be very interesting and very exciting. So till then, make sure you have a nice day, and thanks for watching. I'm really so glad to have you around, and I look forward to having you on the third video, where we're going to be discussing on how to deploy an image from an online Docker Hub into your local machine and run it without any knowledge of the source code that produced that image. So till then, have a nice day, and look forward to seeing you soon again. Bye.